I try to tell my children that planning is important. I stress that. You don't build a house or an office tower without a blueprint. You wouldn't shoot a movie without a script. Planning is the foundation for success. Preparation is the seed of victory. A man with a plan can't be stopped, I tell them. And a man who has no plan can't be helped. Try to have a plan for your life. It's never too early to start. Think about what you want to do. Plan, I tell them. Plan ahead. The other day my youngest asked me, "What was your plan, Dad?" Kids. Well, like a lot of little boys, I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player when I was young. A pitcher. That didn't last long. I was no athlete. Big drawback. I don't know how serious I was about it. It was just a kid's, a pipe dream, a fantasy. Then I decided I wanted to be a cartoonist. Now that was really, I thought Walt Disney and all of that was the greatest. I lived for the Sunday comics page. I even took a few drawing classes, the stuff you send away through the mail. And my parents encouraged me to draw, but they didn't want me to be a cartoonist. Not as a career. I mean, when I brought up the tuition money to this art school, we talked about it, and we decided that it wasn't the right thing for me. I could have had a scholarship to go to school for journalism, a couple $1,000s. I was a paper boy, and I won a contest. My parents thought I should take it, but I didn't want to do that. Delivering papers isn't the same as writing for them, and I had no interest in writing. I didn't know what I wanted to do. When I was a senior in high school, I was applying to various colleges, basing my decisions on important information like whether or not I liked their football team and how far away they were, pivotal stuff like that. I had no idea where I wanted to go. So I got the brilliant idea that I would join the Marines. Actually, it was my friend Jack who had the brilliant idea. We were drunk one night and he was talking about it, and we sort of dared each other to do it, and we both did it the next day. Signed up at the recruiting station, except Jack backed out. He said his parents made him. They got him out of it, and I stayed in. So I was a Marine. Boot camp was a trip. I got stationed in Germany, where I learned to like beer, and it was all right, except that I broke my leg one night when we were out making rounds. We totaled a Jeep, and something happened when they set my leg. I got an infection in the bone, and I had to come back to the States, where I spent a year in a VA hospital, and they never did fix it right, back to where it was, which is why I have this limp. Anyway, I could go to school on the GI Bill, but I didn't know where I wanted to go or what I wanted to do. I had a job in a lumber yard, and I knew for sure I didn't want to do that. I had to go to school. One night a couple of my buddies talked me into driving up to this college, supposedly to investigate it for scholarly reasons. That was what they told me. But the real reason was one of the guys had a brother who was in a fraternity there, and we were going to party our asses off, which we did. I had a great time. All the beer I could drink. It was like being back in Germany, plus all these sophisticated, intellectual, cool college students. That's what I thought. And I wound up dancing with this girl. She was the most gorgeous girl I'd ever seen in my life. God, she was pretty. Georgia, that was her name, like the state. I felt self-conscious at first because of my leg, but she never said a word about it. And I'd had enough to drink that I wasn't thinking about it either. We just danced, and she talked to me and kept dancing with me, and she even kissed me when dancing was over. I mean, she put her arms around me and kissed me full on the lips. Her mouth was open, her eyes were closed, I felt her tongue. It was incredible. On the basis of that one night, I enrolled at that college. I had my application in the mail that week, and they accepted me. As far as I was concerned, I had met the girl of my dreams, Georgia. I learned much later that Georgia had been drunk out of her mind that night and couldn't remember anything when she woke up the next morning. She was already engaged to some guy, and she didn't even go to that school. She was just visiting a friend. I never saw her again. Well, that was all right. It was only just infatuation. It wasn't a bad school. I was pretty happy there after a while. I liked this one professor. I had an introductory psychology course, and I majored in psychology after switching my major 3 times. I went to grad school. That was when I met my wife. I was working part-time in a record store to help pay the bills, and she worked in a dress shop right next to the record store. It was in a mall. I got her discounts on records, and she did the same for me with dresses. Just kidding. Anyway, we got married my last year. We sort of had to, if you know what I mean, but we are going to anyway, and I got my doctorate, and I've been a psychotherapist for 20 years now, I guess. Doesn't seem that long. I specialize in family counseling. Which brings us up to date, except for the divorce, but that's almost to be expected these days. In our society, marriage no longer has the permanence it once did as an institution. I don't believe it's supposed to necessarily. Once the kids are grown, it's really more of a lifestyle consideration. Our marriage had run its course, and we decided to go our separate ways. It was absolutely amicable. I try to tell people to release the guilt, don't blame anybody, do what they feel comfortable with. Different times call for different arrangements. You have to try to see what's right for you at any given time. Be adaptable. But for heaven's sake, when you're starting out, have a plan. I've spoken with thousands of people over the years, professionally, and I would say the greatest factor leading to feelings of instability or lack of control is this absence of any plan. You know, the big picture. So many people are going from day to day without a greater sense of purpose in their life. Everything is short term. Some people point to the failure of organized religion. I don't know. I recommend that they sit down and write out a few goals, what they'd like to do, what would make them happy. 5, 10, 15 years from now. Then they've got something to go on, something tangible to work towards. I do advise my own kids to develop a plan and stick to it, if at all possible, if you want to be happy, if you really want to amount to something.